go to your Hazlet website, I'm gonna, like, I have a shortcut, so I'm just gonna click that. Not the high school page, but that Hazlet page. So Hazlet.K12. And then up here across the top, you have all these tabs. Click on the For Students tab. And then you'll have this Illuminate Ed Student Portal. So if you click on that Illuminate Ed Student Portal, the username is your email address at hazlet.k12.mi.us. And the password is the password that you use to open up your computers.
Hey, Miss Snook.
Yes.
Can you repeat what you just said? I'm so sorry.
No, no worries. So I just went to our Hazlet homepage. Hazlet.k12.mi.us.
Roger that.
So the general one, not the high school one. And then across the top, find For Students. And then click on Illuminate Ed Student Portal. The username is your @hazlet.k12 email address. The password is the password you use to log on to the computers every day. So it'll look like this, and then you should have a section that says Recent Assessments. So any test that you've taken through Illuminate Ed should be there. And I try to give you a week to review the test after we take it. So like it'll always be there, but maybe the test questions are only open for that week for you to look at. So you can do that later, yeah? Okay, so you guys can look at that sometime to satisfy you. And then, you know, just like the last quizzes, if we score under 85% and you want to try for a better grade, we'll have a retake. So we can do a retake next Friday if you'd like. Anybody who scored below an 85. So that'll help you study up. It's not the exact same test, but it's the same content. Ooh, I really liked the notebooks you guys made yesterday. Some really good note taking. And we had a really high percentage of people that turned it in. So that was awesome. I'm wondering, so I'm going through a couple managerial things. How many of you use a planner? I know when I see you in person, there's a lot of us using planners. And I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect. When we're working at home, we feel like school is here and my stuff is here. And I don't think as many people are using planners now. But I think there's so much information coming at you, and there's so much, like, emails get lost, right? And Miss Snook sends you emails, and it's just hard to keep track of everything. So I think now more than ever, a planner is a good idea, or a table calendar or something to write down every day. You know, we go through the agenda. That would be a great time to jot down what you need to do. So today we're going to be doing a POGL, and it is due at 3:30. I know sometimes maybe I don't remember to change the due time and it automatically goes to 11:59, but I don't want you guys staying up late, and I don't want to stay up late, so 3:30 is what we've been working with. You can also put on your calendar the Chapter 6 test, which is November 9th. That's a Thursday. We can have a review session on that Wednesday, flex time, if you'd like. So you'll also have the test review that will be due. The purpose of the review is to get you ready for the test, so I don't take that one late. I've already posted that review in Google Classroom, so if you wanted to work on it a little at a time, or as we cover information, that might seem like less of a task than it did this last time when I just gave you the weekend. So you might look at that. And then another thing I thought, maybe we could kind of look at our days differently. We have this 2-hour block, and I think a lot of us see it as, you know, a one class period. And so it does seem like there's a lot of information coming at you or a lot of work being asked of you. But really remember, it's 2 days. So today is Thursday, and in class, we're going to do Thursday together. And then outside of class, you're going to do Fridays. on your own, right? But maybe look at these rather than a big 2-hour block. Look at it as an hour, 2 1-hour blocks. That way you can build yourself in a break. So like the lectures, we don't take the whole hour. I'll be somewhere between 30 minutes and 45 minutes. Give yourself the rest of that hour to take a break. Get away from the computer, take a walk, whatnot. But if we think of a 2-hour block, our break kind of gets long, I think. So think of our class as 12:27 to 1:27, and whatever time I'm done, take a break and come back at 1:28, okay? Then do your homework that I had assigned, and that's almost always gonna be able to be done in the hour. Some things are only a half hour, and then you could have another break before your next class, or this is the end of the day, so you'd be done for the day. But I think if you chunked it more like that and built yourself in a break, we might not have as much fatigue, and we would be more likely to get our stuff done, say before practices and things like that, work and everything else that happens after the day. Okay, so that's just a different way of looking at it, I think. Today we're going to talk about the muscle tissue, which is what you guys read about. So really, I'm just kind of clarifying and making sure you picked up what I wanted you to. You can open up a Nearpod for that. And then I talked about the POGL, and I'm going to say there's, you can print it off if you want to get away from the computer, fill it out by hand, take pictures of it, that's fine. You can stay and do the digital. It's all digital, like it's editable. Just remember you got to double click the pictures to do things. Or if you wanted to work with other people, come back at, I didn't change this time. That was the last group. So we're 12:27. So we said 1:27 is the next class. So you could come back at 1:27 and do it with a group of people collaboratively if you wanted. Okay, so that's a couple different things you have to just build a little flexibility really into that flex time. All right, any questions over the agenda before we get into content? Okay, so let's see, are we in the Nearpod? Okay, so what I'm going to cover in this lecture are different functions of the muscular system, some unique characteristics of muscle tissue, descriptions and images of free tissue types, organization of skeletal muscle, and some special features. So these are all things that I ask of you come test day, okay? So you might want to have open the notes that you took already. You can use it as a comparison. If you're a note taker, it might speed you up with note taking. Maybe in the note column at the bottom, you could add things that you didn't already grab, or you can highlight things that I said that you did say already. So that kind of confirms that you thought that was important information, right? So that's an idea. You could split your screen and run that and this at the same time. So it might seem a little bit of repetition, but not everybody got everything correct. So I want to make sure you have the correct information. So when we refer to the functions of the muscle system, it should be movement. And a lot of you identified how that movement occurs. Muscles produce movement by pulling on bones. I like to think of there being a Velcro, and then I want a string, and then if I pull my string, then my muscles move, which pulls my bones. Maintaining posture, so all of these muscles in your core area help us to stay upright. Joint stabilization around all of our joints, keeping our joints in line. And then generation of heat. We know when it's cold, we shiver, and that's our muscles producing heat. So here are the characteristics I was looking for. This is one that not everybody got, or you might have added the description because it wasn't spelled out necessarily in the book. So contractibility, excitability, extensibility, and elasticity. And these are graphics trying to indicate what each of those mean. So contraction is simply getting smaller. So the ability for the muscle to get shorter and thicker. So we can see as he flexes his elbow, the length of this muscle gets shorter and the width gets thicker as well. That's an easy lab you could do at home. You're going to need a tape measure for that. You're going to need a tape measure for today's activity too. excitability has two different names, irritability and excitability. So they mean the same thing, recognize them both. And it's the ability to respond to stimuli. And what stimuli you're responding to is, I have an echo. You're responding to acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter released from nerve cells, okay? So that causes sodium channels to open, sodium rushes in, and then a whole series of events occurs. That's next week's topic. Extensibility refers to getting long. So it's the opposite of contraction, right? Extension is, here's your original length, and now it's getting longer. So the ability to extend allows for antagonistic relationships. So the antagonist in literature is like the character that's against the protagonist, right? Maybe it's the bad guy. Antagonistic relationships are two muscles that do opposite actions. So I have a biceps brachii that flexes my arm, and then the triceps brachii extends my arm. So when the biceps are shortening, the tricep is lengthening, extending. And when the tricep shortens, the bicep extends. So that allows for those antagonistic relationships. Here you see shortening and lengthening. And then elasticity has to do with coming back to the original length after it's been stretched. So, you know, we all stretch before our sport activity. Imagine if we did not have elasticity. Like if our muscles remained long, we'd be like a big Gumby doll. So elasticity is bringing it back to its original length. Okay, so let's see if you picked up what you think you picked up. So I have interactive slides now for a little bit. So this is one of these three types of muscles. You want to be able to recognize them come test day by description and by image. So you will have pictures of these on the test. So the next slide, I'm going to give you A, B, C, but I didn't think the picture was big. So I have the picture here. So get an idea of what you think. Those main characteristics, you did what this was and how you knew it. So now A, B, or C. So this one, good job, was smooth. Okay, here's another one. Take a gander at it. Look for some identifying characteristics. And then I'll give you the poll to make your guess. So again, here's a smaller version of that same picture. Oops, I didn't have, okay. So that one was cardiac muscle. And then here's our final one. The process of elimination may make this very easy for you. So we'll reveal that. So that one is skeletal muscle. So you can recognize them by pictures. Can you recognize them by description? So here's a description of each of the three. You have 2 minutes to complete this task. All right, so you had contraction, rapid, powerful, and attached to bones, skeletal. Number 5, the rapid, rhythmic, involuntary, and interconnected, cardiac. And number 6, slow, rhythmic, and not consciously controlled, smooth. So now I'm going through, this is where you might compare your descriptions to mine, just to make sure you got all the details I want. We'll go through skeletal muscle. It's cylindrical in shape. I saw many of you included the trait, it's cigar-like, shaped like a cigar, and it can be many different lengths. So this formed by cell fusion. So you see this has lots of different nuclei because this is no longer many cells, but each of these individual cells have lost their boundaries. So now it's one big long cell, sometimes the full length of the muscle. So it has many nuclei because it's many cells come together. Those nuclei also, notice that they're on the periphery. So that's a key characteristic of muscle cells, or of skeletal muscle, in that it's on the periphery. Striated means stripes. Today's activity in the POGIL, you're gonna learn about those stripes. So this was a diagram you guys did. This one is maybe a little bit different. I had labeled endomysium twice on accident. So that I know caused some people a bit of confusion. But I'd like you to be able to interpret these words because we keep seeing epi, peri, and endo in each of our chapters, right? We had a para-osteum and an endosteum. We will have that again in further systems. So epi means above or upon. So you should write that down. Epi, above or upon. Myo, you know, is muscle. And eum is a connective tissue or lining. So it literally is translated the lining above the muscle. So this entire muscle segment, like your bicep, for example, the whole muscle is surrounded by an epimysium, which is connective tissue, tough, fibrous connective tissue. If you help your mom in the kitchen and you're making like a chicken breast, you will see that connective tissue on the outer layer of the muscle. So you can physically see that. If you dissected that chicken breast, you would be able to see smaller segments, and in between each, you'll find more connective tissue segmenting it. So peri means around, so you should write that down. So the paramysium is literally the lining or tissue around muscle. So this is around bundles of muscle. So the bundles of muscle fibers are called fascicles. This is a fascicle. So the muscle is made up of smaller groups called fascicles, and the fascicle is made up of even smaller groups called fibers. And the fiber is the individual muscle cell. So in class, I always like to do a demo with spaghetti and saran wrap. So I would give each of you guys a spaghetti noodle. That would be a muscle fiber. And then you would wrap it in connective tissue. So recognizing that those two items are separate. Wrap it in the saran wrap. That saran wrap would be the endomysium. So you have your own fiber. Then I would have a whole row of you combine your fibers together into one bundle. That bundle would be a fascicle. You would have another tissue. Another saran wrap goes around that to be the paramysium. And then we would take the bundles from each row in the class and we'd combine them together to make a muscle. And then we'd put another tissue to hold all of those together, and that would be the epimysium. So you can see how that tissue is needed to contain all those fibers. Okay, smaller than a fiber, so I'm gonna keep going. Here's your fascicle, here's your fiber. Pull out, well first, the membrane of the fiber itself is sarcolemma. So when you see myo, you think muscle. If you see sarco, you think muscle cell. And then I can pull out again from that, these myofibrils. And those are made of myofilaments, actin and myosin. And that's what you're gonna look at today in the POGO, the thick and thin filaments, okay? So anything with sarco is gonna refer to a muscle cell. So you have a sarcoplasm, cytoplasm, sarcoplasmic reticulum, the endoplasmic reticulum. So you just put a sarco in front of it for muscles. So this is showing you the organization. The biggest muscles. Muscles are made of fascicles. Fascicles are made of fibers. Fibers are made of myofibril, so similar word, fiber, fibril. And the myofibrils are made up of these proteins, myofilaments, actin and myosin. Okay, so you should be able to, like that could be a drawing that you do or a flow chart that you do, recognizing how muscle is put together. Here's another question for you. So if you were to do like some sort of physical activity, would you prefer to do a short, fast, explosive? Is that fun for you? Or do you prefer to do long, slow, more rhythmic activity? So there's red and white muscle fibers. You've heard of dark and red meat on your turkey. So the dark meat is red fibers and the white meat is the white fibers. We genetically are programmed to have a greater portion of one or the other or an equal amount. So if you have a greater portion of white fibers, which are your fast twitch fibers, you probably gravitate towards the fast, quick, explosive things. Sprinting, diving, powerlifting, those quick, fast things. Now, these you would tire very easily at, because they use the anaerobic energy system. So anaerobic, if you remember from biology, is not as energy efficient as aerobic. Anaerobic without oxygen. So these are short and fast, and they have to be short and fast because they're going to fatigue easily. The other type of fiber is your slow twitch fiber. So the red fibers, and we can see here, this person has a greater percentage of red fibers. This person has a greater percentage of white fibers. That is a genetic code, okay? So you inherit that. The red fibers are the slow twitch fibers and are resistant to fatigue because they utilize the aerobic energy system, which makes 18 times as much energy as the anaerobic, okay? One of the reasons they can make more energy, not just because they're using aerobic, but also because they have lots and lots of mitochondria, which remember, that's what makes our energy. Myoglobin is like a hemoglobin. So that in blood capillaries is what makes it a darker fiber. So like it's physically darker. Okay, so that's the red and the white twitch muscle fibers. What I use to remember one from the other is I think of my chemistry class and I think of my flame, and I know the white flame is the hottest burning flame. And so that always helped me remember that the white twitch or the white fiber was the fast twitch, because if you're fast twitch, you're going to be really hot, right? So that was just a mnemonic I made for myself. So moving on from the skeletal system, we have cardiac, which you know is found in the heart. Cardia would tell us that. It's also striated, meaning it has stripes. Okay, it's only found in the heart. It's a very unique muscle tissue. It has only one nuclei, so that would be a difference between it and the skeletal. One nuclei, several mitochondria, lots of mitochondria. And then what is really unique is that it has these intercalated discs. So when I was looking at those pictures earlier, what would have told me for sure I was looking at cardiac was I saw these dark lines going up and down. Not the stripes that are the striations, but like hard lines. Here, here, here. That's the intercalated disc, which allows signals to be sent between muscle cells. The gap junctions, so notice the cardiac muscle is branched. None of the other muscle tissues have that branching. So that allows you to send a signal to one cell and it will spread to all the other cells. So that's very efficient. We need our heart to beat in synchronous, right? You need it to all happen at the same time. Okay, so smooth muscle is a little bit different in how it's laid out in your body. You can probably guess that it's found in most of your body systems. It lines hollow organs. Many of our tubes and sac-like structures, the stomach, the intestines, they have smooth muscle, as well as your eyes, like what's regulating your pupil size when it's light or dark, that's going to be a smooth muscle as well. But what I want you to really notice is how it's laid out. This tissue here, notice, is horizontal. So we can see these laying side to side. Out here, this is still smooth muscle. It looks differently because now you're looking down on it. So these muscles, fibers are running up and down. And I don't know if you really get that when you do the reading. So this is the horizontal fibers going around an opening like this. And this is the longitudinal fibers, and they would be going around it like this. So what that allows is for what's called peristalsis, this word right here, peristalsis. So it's going to close a tube, which squishes the contents together. And then the long one, when it squeezes, it's basically pushing that substance through the tube. So I like to think of a toothpaste tube when I'm trying to get the most out of it, right? I squeeze the tube and I push it down. So that would be the peristalsis. This is the inner layer of tissues and the second layer of tissues. So they're arranged in two different directions. So that would be pretty unique for smooth muscle. It has no stripes, so that's where the smooth name comes in. It doesn't have those lines. Spindle shaped means it's thinner on the ends and thick in the middle. So when I look at this under the microscope, to me, the smooth muscle fiber looks like wavy, because it's thin and then thick and then thin. So it looks like ribbony or wavy to me. When I look at that picture, that's how I know. So again, comparing your notes, smooth muscle, some things, and I saw a lot of you had this, that it was slower to contract than skeletal muscle and it fatigues less easily. What I might not have seen was this part of the control. So if it's not voluntarily controlled, how is it controlled? So we have the autonomic nervous system, which is a second section of our nervous system, of our brain. Autonomic controls all your organs and glands. And then you also have hormones that are sending signals telling the muscle tissue what to do. So like angiotensin is a hormone that is released that would cause constriction of blood vessels. So when your blood pressure is low, you might release angiotensin and it closes down the blood vessel to increase the blood pressure. Okay. So of that, a lot of that was review, hopefully just reiterating and pointing out some specific things that I want you to know. You should be able to identify the 4 functions. You can come back to this slide, test yourself, identify 5 unique characteristics, recognize the 3 types of tissue, both by picture and image, diagram the organization, and when that, I mean the muscle, fascicle, fiber, fibril, filament, okay? Identify the functions of the intercalated disc and gap junctions, which were specific to cardiac, peristalsis, which was specific to smooth, and then contrast the red and white twitch, which had to do with skeletal. Okay, so are you ready? These are the things that I'll ask you on a test in all different ways, right? So you should be able to talk about those things. That would be a good slide to come back to. Any content questions for me? Okay, here's your next question. What is your asynchronous work today? See, I always think that the assignment is obvious, so I'm just testing to see if I'm right. Am I reading you guys correctly? Job. Okay, so we're gonna complete the muscle contraction POGL by what time? So I'd like you to get it done so you can go to practice, so you can go to your job, so you can babysit, so you can do all the things that you wanna do that happen outside of the school day. You should be able to get it all done. We're closing out here at 1:05. We can take a break, so 1:27. You know, put yourself on a schedule so that you know when your break is over. Come back at 1:27. So 3:30 is the winning time. So if you are feeling a little fatigued and you need to give yourself a break, go ahead and take a break till 1:27. Come on back. Do the POGL, print it off and do it on your own. Do it digitally or join others in the Zoom. I'll change that time to 1:27. Okay. What questions do you have?